Hello, everybody, and welcome to Britpop Buzz, the only channel on YouTube bringing you the Britpop and 90s indie goodness that you're looking for on YouTube. This week, I'm happy to welcome special guest John Andrew from the 90s indie band Kingmaker. Please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's go straight into it. Here's my chat with John Andrew from Kingmaker. Hello. Well, thank you, John, for doing this.
That's all right.
I hope you're all right with the current situation that's going on and everything.
Yeah, not been too bad. No, I don't know anybody that's actually not. Well, actually, a couple of work colleagues that have been ill, but none of my family have been ill, so
no, I'm the same.
All right.
Yeah, everything's all right. Okay, so I've just got a few questions for you, John, about mainly more about the early years and around when the first album came out and everything. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, first question is, when you joined the band, had you already been in the band beforehand, or was this your first band?
Sorry, I lost you a bit there. Do you want to say that again? You're cracking up a little bit.
When you met up with Miles and Loz, was this your first band, or had you been in a band before?
Oh God, no! I've been in quite a few bands. I've been in some quite atrocious bands. I think over the years, I think I'd played in bands when I was at university, just playing covers and stuff, and I'd played in some pretty ropey covers bands just to make some money while I was just after being a student. But I played in quite a few other bands around Hull. Never been not successful in any kind of way. So I'd played around a few bands. So I'd been playing for quite a while because I was a bit older than the other two. The other two were, I think, when the band started, they were just turned 20, and I was about 27, I think. So I was about 6 or 7 years older than them.
All right.
So
yeah.
I'd paid my dues. So it's just to some extent.
All right.
So for me, really, I suppose there was a lot of quite a few dodgy bands, and some good ones.
Can I just ask, what was the music scene around when you first started together playing around Hull and that? Because I'm from Scunthorpe and I still live in Scunthorpe, and I'm just curious of what it was like at the time around this area.
It was a busy music scene. There was a lot of music going on. I mean, most of the bands that we used to go and see would be playing down at the Adelphi. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a like a terraced house. You wouldn't down a terraced street. You wouldn't really notice it, but it's a great little club. It's been going for like 30 odd years now. But at the time, it had been going for about 10 years. I think, in fact, I think we played the 10-year anniversary of it, but that's like obviously 20 odd years ago. Yeah. So there was a lot of music going on there, but the only bands that had been successful out of Hull in sort of recent times had been the House Martins and then the Beautiful South. So by the time we came along, there hadn't been any other kind of bands that had hit the actually sort of gone off and sort of hit sort of any kind of national exposure. So, but there was a really busy kind of local scene. There was loads of bands going on, some really, really good bands, and I mean we tried to get as many of them to support. I mean, there's so many bands came through there. We just be going down there all the time just to check out what was the next band that was coming through. There was loads of really great local bands and some bands that went on to be massive. So it was a great time. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, good. It sounds like it was a really bustling scene at the time. Lots of stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest regret, I think, in the early days of Kingmaker, I think I've just met them. was a band we all really liked, Eight. I don't know if you've ever heard Eight. Sell Me a God was like
old posters and things.
Eight. What? Sorry.
I've seen them on old posters and things of old.
Check it out. That their first album was just like was on like repeat of when we first heard them. And the one band I went down to get into to go and see them at the Adelphi, and I couldn't get any money out of the cash point, and so I couldn't get in. So I went down, stopped on the way, couldn't get any money out of the cash point, so sort of turned around and went home. And I loved it. We ended up playing on the same bill as them. We supported the Wonder Stuff, and they were on the same bill supporting the Wonder Stuff. So saw them quite a lot, so we got to know them fairly well. But at the time, really, yeah, they were a great band. So there was all kinds of stuff going on.
Oh, good. We'll definitely have to go and have a look for that. Sounds like I need to do some more listening over Christmas.
Yeah.
How involved in the writing process of the early songs was you, and what of the early songs actually made it onto the album? How was they all written? All the early songs on the album, or was some of them not used? Or
we wrote a lot of songs, and we wrote fairly quickly. I think, especially in the early days. Before I met the other two, they only had a couple of songs. Sorry, they had a couple of songs that they'd written before I joined. So basically, nearly all the songs that we did for the first album and those first EPs, we basically wrote together. We did most in fact, nearly all of our writing in the rehearsal room. So we'd turn up to the rehearsal room. We'd all just start. Somebody had come up with a little idea, and we'd kind of pick it up from there and work on it. And Laws had a little book with all these little. He'd collect little scraps of lyrics, or odd little phrases and lines and things that he'd heard. So we'd come up with an idea and sort of mess around with it. He'd like flick through his book and find the odd little phrase that sort of fits in, and then we'd kind of repeat it a few times and get the feel for the song. And then he'd go away and write more of a lyric for the song, and then we'd come back the next day and work around that. And so we kind of wrote together like that in a kind of slightly iterative style, just like working through songs. But all the songs we wrote together, nearly all the first album, all the first EP, I think almost everything that we wrote ended up on some kind of release, because there were so many releases, like EPs. We put out the 2 EPs or 3 EPs if you count the Celebrated Working Man, before we even got to doing the album. Some of the album tracks we wrote in the studio, I think Really Scrape the Sky came from an idea that Miles and I were just jamming around with in the studio while Loz was busy doing some vocals or some guitars, and the drums and bass were set up in another room. So we messed around with some ideas, and we came up with the basic core of Really Scrape the Sky just between the two of us, and then sort of passed it on to Loz, and he finished it off. So. But we tended to write together, which was really good. I think it's quite easy as a 3-piece, because you're not arguing with, you haven't got 2 guitarists arguing with each other, and the guitarist wasn't going to argue with the singer because it was the same person. So I think it worked quite well with the lineup that we had.
Yeah, that sounds like it. You was gelling together as a group really well, not one person. Like a lot of bands you see, they had a writer and then they come back with a song, and everyone sounds like it's good that you got together that way and worked together as a team. Is not.
Yeah, I think it works well for some bands. I think where you have like a definite kind of songwriter, then somebody who's in control of it. But I think we really enjoyed just playing together as a 3-piece. It just kind of gelled together, and we kind of found our own spaces quite quickly. So it just worked. That worked really well for us, and it was really that. In some ways, that was my favourite part of it, just being in a room, coming up with something from nothing was great. And we did that nearly all the way through all three of the albums. I think towards the end, Loz did a little bit more songwriting by himself, some of the quieter ones, but basically we carried on like that as we were a 3-piece unit, and we wrote together.
Yeah.
On condition, Law said that he wouldn't sing anybody else's lyrics, so he had to write the lyrics. So we were quite happy to let him do that.
All right. Yeah. Now, on your first two EPs, there's pictures of a cat wearing a crown on one and a baby wearing a crown on another. Did the band design them pictures themselves, or was someone else involved in designing the pictures?
There was a creative department at Chrysalis. So Chrysalis were kind of, our label. They were coming up with ideas. We were kind of pitching some ideas, and I think it was our manager John Gammon that came up with the baby. The baby was like the Cowan Gate baby, which is like from the front of Cowan Gate baby milk from the 1950s or something. So I think he was from the 1950s as well. So he was like, he came up with this. Yeah, I've got this great idea. We're going to go with the baby, and it's going to be playing with some building blocks, and we're going. Yeah, go mock something up, show us it, and see if we like it. And I really like that. I really like that that waterproof cover and that the baby with the block somewhere. That was a really nice design. The cat, I can't remember where the cat came from. That probably be somebody at Chrysalis who came up with an idea of the smiling cat. Yeah, I like those first EPs were the waterproof one. I've still got them. In fact, what have I done with them? I did have some of the badges from the waterproof. We had there was on the back there was the 4 symbols, a symbol for each of the songs, and then we had little individual badges on it. So I found them recently. That's why I thought they were on my desk somewhere, but they've disappeared again. Probably find them in another 10 years' time.
Yeah. I have done a little bit of research before tonight, but one thing I couldn't find out is how did the band actually come up with the name Kingmaker? Did Loz and Miles come up with the name before you joined, or did you come up with it? Or
finding that when I first met them, they were called Rain, and there was another band from Liverpool, I think, at the same time called Rain. So it's like straight away we can't use that. We need to find another name. And then I don't know if you speak to anybody from any band, the hardest thing in the world isn't writing songs or not falling out with each other or anything else. The hardest thing is just trying to think of a name for your band, because it was just things either sound too trite and crap, or somebody's already used it.
Yeah.
So we spent ages trying to come up with a name. I think at one point we were called Tombstone Graffiti, which was pretty awful. So we didn't stick with that for very long. And then we just didn't have a name. We were the band with no name for a while. And then in the end, I think our manager said, come on, lads, to do the first EP. He said, you really do need to have a name. So we took it from one of the early songs. We had a song called Little Miss Kingmaker, which is on the Celebrated Working Man EP. So the first EP that we put out on Sacred Heart. So so we had that as a title of a track. So somebody said, how about Kingmaker? So that'll work. Stuck with that. But it was a long and tortuous process.
I can imagine just writing out names and yes, no, yes, no.
It's even worse these days. If you try and do it these days, you've got to sit and then you think, well, I need to get the website. So you type it in and type it into a domain search and realise that every domain in the world's been taken by somebody who either is using it or just sitting on it. So so it's even worse these days trying to think of a band name that somebody hasn't got a Facebook profile or it doesn't exist. The domain already exists. So thankfully, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
No, I can't imagine having to start that now. It's like, I must admit, when I've been on Instagram under a different name for a while, and then I've changed to this Britpop Buzz. And before that, I was looking for a different name for Instagram, and you put that in at the start, and there's hundreds of them, and everything I wanted, I'm sat there going, no, can't have that. I was like, oh.
You think of the most ridiculous one, you think nobody's got that. That's been taken. Where do I go from here?
And I looked at some of them. They haven't posted anything since 2015. I'm like, yeah, but I can't use that because you're using it. It's like, yeah. Now I know I've jumped questions a bit. I should have really just asked this one before. But on the front cover of Eat Yourself Whole, are these meant to be tadpoles? Do you know?
They're sperm.
I knew it. I did wonder, but then I thought, is it meant to be sperm or is it tadpoles? I'm like, nah, surely they wouldn't have put sperm out.
No, you'd think that, wouldn't you? But no, we did. For some reason, I have no idea why they came up with the sperm. But yeah, the Sperm Man T-shirt, as we referred it to. I mean, that because we sold a lot of those T-shirts. Yeah, it was. I have no idea why he came up with it, but it sold a lot of T-shirts, so I'm not complaining.
And that's the cover art that's used for the new box set that came out this year. That's what they've used as the main front cover. Was you were involved in the box set that came out this year?
Yeah, we were involved from the start with that. So I spoke to the designer about that, and he came. I think he came up with the same idea anyway. That he came up with some ideas mocked up around that original album cover, and we I think he had some weird colours, and I said, in the end with well, I like the black and gold, which is what we'd used on the celebrated working man. So I said, if you just take that and do what have you done and do it in black and gold, I think it works quite well. So yeah, we did a lot with the box set release. We supplied all of the photos for the inside. So Miles and I trawled through all our old photo libraries, and I scanned a load of the stuff in to send it in. So it's all stuff from our scrapbooks and bits and bits of press cuttings that we'd found. So a lot of that there are pictures that we scanned in, and Miles wrote the sleeve notes and stuff. So it was nice. I mean, they were really good, Cherry Red, about getting us involved from the very beginning. So it was quite hard work actually getting a lot of the stuff done, because there's a lot of work to get in there, and we had to make sure that we got all the tracks and trying to hunt down some of the kind of some of the tracks that we thought we'd lost because things go missing, and record labels, because of the record label, are not always the best at keeping track of where all the actual physical assets live. So, but we had to track some, but they hunted down most of the bits and pieces. So yeah, I think we got everything on there in the end that we could think of that went out as a release on Chrysalis or EMI.
Oh, good. I'm glad they was able to help and didn't say, no, you can't have it. That would have been the worst thing for you if the turned around said no. Yeah.
We only got one copy each, though, of the box set. So did all that work, and then they sent us 3 copies, one each. And I'm thinking, God, can't even give one to my mates. Give one to my mum.
Now, I know you haven't been able to play this year, but you are playing next year.
We did play one. We did play once this year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we got one gig in. in February. We played the Lexington in London. So we did that. We did the one show just before COVID was like just on the horizon, and we were worried that it might not go ahead, but we got that done, and then we were due to play on the Shine On ferry in March, and that only got cancelled at the last minute. But yeah, we managed one gig last year. Yeah, we said next year's 30th anniversary of Eat Yourself Whole. So 30 years since that came out. So we're trying to book in some gigs now. We've got the 100 Club in June and Shine On in November. So we're looking to find some other gigs to play. Well, obviously, I'm fairly sure there'll be an Adelphi show or a Hull show at some point in there. So I think we're going to go and do whatever all of the bands do at the moment, is just go in and play the album sort of in order.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting, because there's some songs on there we never played live, even when the album came out. There's some songs that I think we may have played once or twice, but we didn't play them that often. So I've been down the rehearsal room, my headphones on, listening to them, trying to remember how to play them. So
yeah, well,
it'll take a bit of practice. Yeah.
Hopefully some gigs do come on next year. I'm going to try and definitely get to one next year. So yeah.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, let us know. Make sure you get you in.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. Well, thank you for joining me on this, John. It's been a grateful experience, and I wish you all the best. I do like Eat Yourself Whole. It's a great album, and hopefully I'll get to a gig next year.
No, thank you very much. It's been good.
No, and I'll hopefully be able to speak to you again. I'd love to do it again.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all the best, John, and I hope you have a good Christmas.
Yeah, you too. Thanks very much.
All right, John. Thank you.
Cheers. See you later.
Bye.
Well, I really enjoyed that conversation with John. I hope I hope all you viewers did too. And I want to say a big thank you to John for agreeing to have that Zoom conversation with me. It was really good, and I hope we can do it again sometime in the future. Thank you for watching to the end. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another episode of Britpop Buzz. And I want to say, wish you all a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.